All right. So I think we have one more caller. Do we have time for one more caller?
Yes.
The magic
yes, we do.
of editing.
Yeah.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
Let's get to the next caller. All right, and now we have our last caller for the day is Josh in California. Josh, how's it going?
Hi, guys. How are you?
Really
Doing wonderful.
good. We actually got this to work, which is fantastic.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah, so Josh...
Finally, we found a way to take calls. So.
Josh is actually an old friend. And
well, it's good to talk to you guys. I'm glad. Thank you for having me on.
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah, our pleasure.
I actually heard
well, I just actually wanted to I wanted to call because I had there's a concept that I wanted to get your guys' input on, and really like it's something that you see a lot in you know when it comes to religion, and unfortunately when it comes to politics as well lately, and sometimes you get religion kind of seeping into politics, which you know sucks, and it's a reality of life that we have right now. But that concept is people who double down in the face of adversity, and I know you guys probably are.
Who could you be thinking of, possibly?
Oh, please give me examples. I want to hear it. What do you got?
Well, like, what's a really good example? Like, you know, young Earth creationism, obviously. Mm-hmm. You know, nothing before what 4,000 years, 5,000 years. How old's the Earth?
Between 6 and 10. Yeah.
6 and 10, and then you start talking about you know dinosaurs. You give them evidence
the
that
behemoth.
There is when you present a young Earth creationist with proper evidence, even in the face of absolute proof against a belief, that forces somebody to just double down on just how affirmed they are that what they think is correct. I don't really understand how that works. I don't know if you guys have a better insight into the mind of somebody who does that or the reason for it. Yeah. But I wanted to get your guys' input on that whole theory or situation, however you want to call it.
Jamie actually loves this.
Yeah, well,
you take it away, brother.
As a topic, yes. People doing this is not as much a love. It's almost like we're going to have a live audience. Someone's at the door. Okay. I was letting the people in the booth know very not subtly. So in one of the earlier episodes, it's like maybe episode 2 or 3 of season 1, I go on a little bit of a rant about people whose default response is no, nuh-uh, like talking to a 5-year-old, and they back themselves into a corner. Well, no, that can't be true. Well, no, that can't be true. Well, the explanation you can't. And in that episode and that rant, I also point out that that's how you get people who will say, well, no, gravity's not 100%. Because you keep testing my faith by going, oh, look, gravity. And you go, oh, but, how do you know that's gravity? It's like, well, that's what we're describing. Well, gravity's not 100%, right? Because they can't, do anything but, nuh-uh, you're wrong. No, fake news.
Right.
There's no nuance there because nuance takes a kind of effort. And it's one of the things that can happen if you start with a conclusion before you even hear what you're responding to. And it's just so happens that the conclusion that they're starting with is whatever I already believe is accurate and whatever someone else says is wrong, false, or fake news, or in this case, not 100%. And so the interesting thing with that is in many cases, what that person already believes isn't really fully fleshed out. So they'll come up with explanations on the fly that they don't really fit into a larger picture. They're ad hoc. It's like they'll come up with an explanation for whatever you just said. Right?
Well, a great example of that, I think, is with that recent election in Alabama with Roy Moore, and after it was shown that beyond a margin of error he lost, he just would not back down. He wouldn't resign. He, it was a situation where I think he started coming up with theories of people busing in black voters from other states, I think was the theory that he came up with and tried to sue for. So I think I know exactly what you're talking about on that front.
Yeah. I mean, that shows even more creativity, though, than a lot of what I was thinking of. A lot of it is no creativity. A lot of it is, and I say this, not showing any favoritism to one of the many candidates that existed in the past or that currently holds an office, but a response like, oh no, whatever you just said is fake news. Right?
Right.
Which you get, I hate the phrase both sides now, but on all sides of any political spectrum that you care to establish, left, right, up, down, or up, left, right, up, down, and forward and backwards. But depending on how complicated
the Z-axis there.
Yeah, X, Y, Z axis, it gets kind of complicated because that's difficult to depict on a piece of paper. But you get that kind of response. You get a, like, okay, well, you know, I don't know, like GMOs, people will come up with all kinds of explanations for why. They'll talk about Monsanto, and you'll be like, okay, but aside from Monsanto, without that, you're just like, no, it's just bad, right? It's people sticking with a conclusion because, in part, like, I'm not sure if you watch the Atheist Experience regularly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw Matt Doherty on the show with you at the end of the last season and with Eric beginning of this one.
Woo-woo! But one of the things that Tracy has talked about a couple of times in the last year was the formation of identity. And what a person believes, in many ways, forms a part of their identity, particularly if they associate it with a group, right? So anyone that says, oh, liberals as a group, or like, oh, those conservatives as a group, is kind of showing their hand a little bit that they at the very least recognize other people's identity, if not are identifying what identity they would fall into. Sorry, I don't mean to...
No, that's okay. I just know that somebody is screaming at the screen right now. It's called the backfire effect. It's called the backfire effect.
Yeah, it is.
We know it. Please don't kill us in the YouTube comments. We know.
Oh yeah,
we know.
That's the name. And if my explanation isn't good, then you can Google it. And if my explanation is good, you should Google it anyway. But it's the backfire effect, as he properly titled it, is caused by, well, I'm threatened. And so it's the defensive response, right? It's like if someone says, you're a bad driver, right? Your response is like, no, I'm not. It's basically everything that our president does whenever anyone levels criticism.
No, this didn't get political at all.
Well, he is on...
trying to keep it out of the political spectrum, but that was a kind of a prime example of the doubling down on the I can't be wrong. But I think I understand what you're talking about. It kind of identifies...
The one example... The one example I wanted to point to was that he ruined a joke that I had about myself. Because I used to, whenever I would say something positive about myself, joke and be like, oh yeah, and also I'm the most humble person, as a kind of sarcastic recognition that I'd said something positive about myself because I feel self-conscious about that. But he said that seriously. Someone said like, oh, well, you know, I mean, you're not known as the most humble person. And he talked about how humble he was.
Okay, moving us out of politics now. I actually have something else.
Let me finish this statement.
God damn it.
So that I can relate it very quickly. And he actually said, no, I am very humble, right? And this isn't a thing that's specific to him. It has nothing to do with any of his policies or whether or not you voted for him or would have voted for him or whatever, and I'm not revealing how I voted in the last election other than I did. But that kind of thing you can see from any politician or your friends or whatever. That one just sticks in my mind because it relates to a joke that I used to tell. And that kind of defensive is exactly why people go, no, this belief that I have is correct because it's something about them. Right? And even if a person might have said, well, you know, maybe I'm not the best driver, but if you start them off by saying, well, you're a terrible driver, they're going to feel that defensive mark.
Yeah.
All right, you finished that very well. I apologize.
Thank you.
You did that well.
You were trying to rescue me.
I was desperately trying to rescue you.
I don't usually have a good answer.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I wanted to keep it out of the political spectrum, but I figured that was a fair enough recent example. But,
no worries. I've got one for you.
So you're saying that people identify with their beliefs and they feel you're attacking their identity. So what's some way that if you are, because you know there are certain, you know, without saying any names or anything, there are certain groups of people and certain people with certain beliefs that are more prone to that double down effect that I asked about than others. So what's a better way to approach approach people and try and when you're debating a topic or talking about a topic that's very heated and be very competitive, what's the best way to avoid getting that double down response to get your point across, or is it unavoidable?
Well, it kind of depends on your approach. Sorry, I've been all over this call.
No.
One of the first things you can do is keep in mind the context of the conversation, and whether or not this conversation is one-on-one, or whether or not there's going to be one or more third parties involved, because that can complicate things a bit as well. Right?
Sure.
It can either make someone feel like, oh, well, this is the one person disagreeing with me, I don't have to listen to them, or everyone else is ganging up on me, which can be issue. However, also, if the third party is sort of a neutral engagement, it can be helpful, although I've found that either of the first two things, the third party being less helpful as far as a friendly, reaching out of a hand, here, join me.
That looked really good on camera.
Did it?
Yeah, it did. Join us, right?
Join us. You can't see the live feed right now, but you can imagine. Yeah, but Eric is nice. He knows how to speak to people politely.
Well, most of the time. Here's the thing. Peter Boghossian, in his book, Manual for Creating Atheists, speaking of politics, wow!
Wait, that's not...
personal version of the book. Anyway, I really like the book, and in it he talks about taking tiny pieces. You're not going to change somebody's mind overnight. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
But there are a lot of things that you can do that can help people, and even if they don't come to the same conclusion as you, you can at least help give them the tools to come to better conclusions in the future, right? And so a couple of those things are, I know I've been saying it almost every episode, right? Modeling what it is like to be wrong. Model how it's okay to say, I don't know. And put an emphasis on the fact that it's better to learn than to keep thinking the same wrong thing, because we all have things that we can learn. Right? It's not just in the realm of politics or religion. Everything.
Yeah.
The world is open to us. But the other piece is that I keep wanting to bring in, but I haven't found the ability to, is as far as doubling down. Presuppositional apologetics.
Bless you.
So much fun. And we really need to find a time to talk about it.
How sarcastic you are.
I love to see it happen, because it's just this beautiful little circle of I can't see my way right out of it. And so it's just, Josh, presuppositional apologetics, it takes out the I'm offended and so I'm doubling down, and it just doubles down on itself. And it just compounds itself into this weird kind of line of reasoning that is just super fun. I think I want to take a
you need to
later
put reasoning
episode.
In air quotes.
Oh yeah,
reasoning.
So it's like circular reasoning.
Did you ever watch the debate between Matt Dohoney and Cy-Ten Brinkett?
I don't think so. No.
Depending on your stomach, you may or may not be able to get through it.
Oh, it's fun.
Psi is a presup.
Yeah. So the idea is
he's also
you can only come to knowledge through God. The only way that you can know something is if you have a foundation in God, because God gives you that gift of knowing. And
we don't have the ability to create ethics on our own. We have to have
not just ethics, any
establishing it for us.
Yeah, you can't even come to the conclusion that you exist
without God.
And because of that, walking into it, as far as Psi is concerned, you cannot win on the face of it. There's literally not a thing that can come out of your mouth that he'll be like, but you don't have God, so you can't have any knowledge. Sorry. And it's just...
Well, no, it's you already know that God exists also. Ray Comfort has a little bit of this. You already know that a God exists, but you won't admit it.
Well, the great thing about him is he's got the Kiwi accent.
Yeah. He's also, by all accounts, Ray Comfort is a very nice person. Like he sent.
Have you met him? Were you there? Were you there? Sorry.
No,
Josh.
but I can conclude based on reasonable evidence from third parties.
Sorry. One of his big things is when people talk about the beginning of the universe.
Are you confusing him with Ken Ham?
Am I? I thought they both weren't they both?
Ken Ham is an Aussie.
Oh.
Ken Ham was the Bill Nye.
Yeah.
Ken Ham has a giant freaking boat in the middle of nowhere.
I'm not sure you can call it a boat if it's nowhere near water, will never be near water, and wouldn't float.
It looks like a boat.
He has a giant boat model.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. He built an ark.
Yeah,
Yes.
this is
Yes,
the Ark
he did.
Park, the one that's basically bankrupted a town in Kentucky,
Excellent.
spiraling, local citizens
see it.
into debt and destruction of their economy for decades to come.
That part's
Is that the one where they have Jesus walk the streets of the park with the basically doing the whole walk with the cross and like the thorns on his head and stuff, and then they string him up as like a show?
I think that might be the Creation Muse.
I think that's either no. There's another amusement park. I think that's a thing. It's a different Jesus park.
I got it.
This Jesus park is more like a Noah park.
Yeah.
Also, Jesus.
Okay. But
I don't think it's Jew friendly or Jewish.
I won't be visiting either of them.
Are you sure?
He's anyway.
He's Jewish. Who's Jewish?
I'm Jewish.
Me too. High five.
Oh my God.
All right.
We just learned that my family is more Jewish than we thought. Actually,
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I mean, I
all of a
was
sudden
Jewish
he's
enough
talking
before.
like this, and I can't stop him.
As far as Nazis were concerned, I was Jewish enough to begin with. So I think I might be Jewish enough. Actually, I know I am now for even strict Orthodox Jewish people. So.
But are you Jewish enough to complain about like everything?
I can kvetch about anything I want.
Oh yeah, okay, then you're fine.
Alrighty then. This is
anyway.
I'm feeling super awkward right now.
Oh, sorry. Adjust that.
Why? Because you're the only goyim in the room.
Yeah.
Hey! I might be a goyim, but I'm a mensch. All right. So, Josh, thank you so much for calling in, brother. That was a really great way to end the show. We really appreciate it. Keep following us and keep being amazing.
And feel free to call in again. We've got more to talk about.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
Thank you. You take care, brother.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.